Hi, this is Marcy at Woodmark. Is there anyone on the line yet?
Yes, Marcy at Woodmark. This is Jamie with Children's National. How are you? Can you hear me? Marcy? 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 Marcy?
Hi, Rana. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me okay? Marcy, can you hear me?
Jamie's on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jamie.
Okay, good.
I think maybe Marcy can't hear us.
Yeah.
I am going to chat to her and let her know.
And
Jamie, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Can you hear me?
Good.
Marcy? I sent her an email saying we couldn't hear her.
All right, and let's see.
No, I can't hear anyone, Rana.
Okay, I'm just...
And I don't see anything on the computer yet.
So you don't see there's a slide that has a cute little boy smiling.
Oh, there he is, the same one we
Okay.
had on ours. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. I'm there.
Yeah. We're going to have to think about using more than one slide because people are jumping onto multiple calls, which is great, but it
Yeah,
reveals how we cheat.
no problem. I'm flexible.
Okay, so I think Marcy's switching over and calling in by phone rather than trying to use the computer audio. So she'll join us again in a second here.
Okay.
Hi, welcome. This is Rana at Woodmark. Somebody labeled Kay Carson just joined us. Who's that?
Hi, it's Marcy at Woodmark. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
I can hear Rana. Looks like we've got Jamie on the
Yes,
line.
present.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Very well.
Good, good. And Kay Carson?
Yeah, Katie Carson from Riley just chatted to
Okay.
us.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Great. Looks like we have some repeat attendees.
Hi, yeah. Art, is that you again? Maybe he's still dialing in.
He
And
might be, yeah.
I see Brandon.
Yeah. And you said Katie Carson, right?
That's
yeah,
right.
she's, yeah. I'm going to change her, Carson.
Oh, I just did.
Oh, I'll cancel that. Do you want to do that?
Sure. Yeah.
To be in charge of that, and I'll do the slides?
Yeah, that
And
sounds
help.
good.
Okay.
Okay. Someone from area code 832 joined us. Welcome. Hopefully they can hear.
Right? I don't know what the deal was with the other headset.
Well, we can work that out
Yeah.
later. Let's see, it's 3 minutes to the hour by my watch, so we'll get started in just a few minutes. We're still waiting for the co-chairs to join us and a handful of the rest of your colleagues, and then we'll get underway.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jamie. And let's see, Brandon, can you hear me? I saw you. Oh, nope. You unmuted and then remuted. Maybe you can also chat to us if you're having problems with your audio. Great.
Okay, look. Yeah, he can hear us.
Brandon, welcome. More people are joining.
Looks like David Lowing is on the phone. One of the co-chairs.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We're going to get started in 2 or 3 minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to jump on the line, and then we'll get underway. So it's great to have you on the call today.
Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to see people hopping on the line. It's still just a little before the hour, so we're going to start in a minute or two. Thanks so much for being here with us.
All right, David and Eve, are you connected to audio? Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
I am on the line. Can you hear me?
Yep, great. Thanks, David.
Excellent.
And Eve may be still dialing in. Oh, Eve, are you on the line? She's on mute.
Eve, we're going to try unmuting you from our end.
Yep.
Can
Oh, there she.
Hi,
Eve,
this
are
is
you
Katie
there?
from Boston Children's.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Eve, it looks like you're unmuted. Are you on the line?
She chatted that she's going to dial in.
Oh, okay, perfect. Get her on the line and then we'll get started. Ah.
All right. Welcome, everybody who's just joining. We are going to start in 1 minute. We're glad that you're here with us today. Just checking, Eve. Can you hear us at this point? No, it sounds like Eve is having a little bit of tech. Oh, there she is.
There I am.
Hi, Eve. Welcome.
Hi, sorry about that. Apparently I don't have a microphone.
Well, now you know.
Oh, you think Seattle is a technology hub? Not so much at our hospital. Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Well, I think we're
see
ready.
now.
We got a good crowd here.
Okay, excellent. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, David, my trustee co-chair, also will be helping with today's program. So just wanted to go over agenda and setting some norms. And before we launch into our guest speakers who are going to be here today, which will also prompt some discussion, and then a little reminder about our next calls. So let's see. Let me go on to how should we do this, ladies? Should I control the?
So Eve, it's Marcy at Woodmark. I'll go ahead and control it for now.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to go line by line. So if everyone can see, we've got an agenda up on the screen. And then you and David could start off with level setting. Want to take it from there?
Yes, please.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much, Marcy and Rana, for educating us on some of the group norms that some of the other cohort groups are also going to be adopting. And it's really just to make sure that everybody has expectations set for these calls, that everybody gets to be heard, and there's real good equity in the participation. So you can read the screen, respect, say what's said on the call stays on the call, so let's keep it within the cohort group. Be genuine about the challenges, which means, in essence, if your hospital is really struggling, but you might be embarrassed to say something, it's okay, it stays here. Listen to understand, and try to resist multitasking, because sometimes we can hear the typing on the calls, and it's just so that we don't have to repeat anything in case someone's multitasking. And we want everybody to participate. So with that, one of the ideas on the continuing on, celebrate one another's successes.
There's a couple more.
Oh, okay. And then whenever you do speak, if you could just quickly mention your first name and either your city or your hospital. And if you're in the car, or if you have music or loud folks in the background, please mute your phone or your microphone in certain cases, especially if you need to hop off the call or if you need to place us on hold. All right. All right, so just for some level setting and icebreaker, we're going to go around the call, and everybody just really quickly, 7 seconds or less, your first and last name, your hospital and city, and then also the icebreaker question is, what is your favorite comfort food, even if you don't eat it now? So, Marcy, do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm going to go down the participant list that I've got here online. So some of us have names attached and some of us just have phone numbers. So if you hear your area code, chime in. I've got someone that's identified as CE101819.
That's me, Barbie Henches, Children's Minnesota. That's my employee ID now, so there's my big share with everybody. Let's see, my comfort food, chocolate. That's my go-to.
Great. Drew, is it Audige at
Yep.
Riley Children's? Go
Yep.
ahead.
Yeah, Drew Audige, Riley Children's Foundation, Indianapolis. Favorite comfort food is mac and cheese.
Great. And someone looks like calling in from Boston, 617 area code.
That might be me. This is Katie McGurk. I'm calling in from Boston Children's Hospital, and I would have to say ice cream.
All right. And A. Wong.
Amy Wong from Lucille Packard, and I have to say chocolate chip cookie dough.
Fantastic. How about John?
Yeah, John Slump from Nationwide Children's Hospital. I think my favorite comfort food is chicken parm.
Nice. Ted McCartan?
Hi, Ted McCartan, Lurie Children's in Chicago. I was going to say ice cream, but I'll be unique and say a BLT sandwich.
Ooh, let's see. Someone in the 317 area code.
That's probably me. It's Katie Carson from Riley Children's Foundation, and favorite comfort food is pasta.
Fantastic. How about 650 area code?
Hi, this is Stacy Neiman with Lucille Packard Foundation for Children's Health, and my favorite comfort food would be fried chicken.
Right, thanks, Stacy. And we've got someone from the 832 area code.
Hey, it's Eric Blackwell from Texas Children's in Houston. I would say Texas brisket.
Delicious. Amanda Dove.
Hi, I'm with Nationwide Children's Hospital, and my favorite comfort food is homemade chicken noodles.
Oh, yum.
Ooh.
Fantastic. Let's see. Brandon have you gone from Lucille Packard? And he might be having some audio issues too. He can.
Yeah, Brandon just mentioned that he's having audio issues. This is Stacy.
Yep, and mac and cheese. All right. Is there anyone besides the co-chairs that we haven't? Oh, it looks like Carrie. Carrie, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, it's Carrie Finke from Cincinnati Children's and Popcorn.
Fantastic. And Jamie Davis.
Hi, Jamie Davis, Children's National, Washington, D.C., and I think mine would be anything hot, hot soup, hot tea, anything just that's warm going down, and you don't have to chew.
Thanks, Jamie. How about Kirsten?
Well, it's probably Kirsten from Minnesota, and she may be having some audio issues as well.
She might have to. And then it looks like, I know this person was on the last call, X Black W. Who was that again?
That's Eric in Houston.
Oh, got it. Perfect. Thanks, Eric. So you've already had a turn. How about Junie Tamburino?
Judy's with Children's Minnesota. They, I think, are having some audio issues as well.
Okay, thank you. And S. Neiman, did we?
Yeah, we heard from Stacy. That was Stacy.
Stacy. Okay, perfect. All right, Sharon Robinson.
Yes, this is Sharon from Atlanta. Sourdough pretzels all the way.
Yum.
All right. Is there anyone on the call that has not introduced themselves? So I'll let,
except for our co-chairs.
Right. I'll let our co-chairs. Eve, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Sure, Eve Kopp, Eve Kopp, Seattle. It was so great to hear everybody's voice. It's just so it's so heartwarming to have a really great participation level today. So let's see. Mine has to be cheeseburgers and fries.
Good one.
David, how about you?
Yeah, this is David in Philadelphia. So Brandon and I, Brandon from Lucille Packard, share a passion for mac and cheese.
Yum. All right. There's one more person on the 404 area code. Is that Atlanta?
It is Atlanta. I'm not sure who it is.
Okay, so it might.
Or it could be me because I'm confused on the computer and the audio. So if this is Sharon, it could be me.
Yeah, sometimes if you call in from the phone instead of using the audio on the computer, that it'll come up twice. So, all right, I am going to hand it back over to Eve and David. We'll get started. Thanks,
David,
everyone.
would you like to? Yeah, David, would you like to introduce the next?
Yep. Yeah, sure. So, just for some context here, so in planning this call, we were we put some feelers out there to kind of get some feedback around what would be the best use of everyone's time. And one of the things that was pretty evident was we were looking for big ideas and things that were a little bit innovative and new ways to approach our work. And so we have the pleasure of welcoming Alyssa Caruso and Catherine McGurk from Boston Children's Hospital Trust, who are going to basically speak to us this afternoon, or my afternoon, my time, around the Children's Cup. And so we really appreciate them taking the time out to speak to us. And so without further ado, Alyssa and Catherine.
Great. Thanks so much, David. First, I want to thank you, Eve, David, Marcy, for the invite. It's both flattering and honor to say a couple words on the event. Alyssa will be in and out, so I'm going to kind of do the bulk of the recap and answer any questions that you guys have. We have a gala this coming Friday, so apologies for her running in and out. I appreciate you guys understanding. So what I figured I could do first is I could talk a little bit about what the event is, and then I'll go into how it came about, tips and tricks as to what we've we've realized along the way in terms of creating the event and adjusting the event from year to year. And then I'll open it up for any questions that you have for me specifically, or just about what you might be working at within your own hospitals, and if I can be helpful to that brainstorm that you're having individually as well. So a little bit of a background. The Boston Children's Hospital Corporate Cup, it's a series of athletic events. So we always say it's a decathlon meets a field day. So you're promoting fun and fitness and friendly competition among the business community in particular. So the premise is companies are invited to register a team. Each team has anywhere from 8 minimum to 20 maximum people that can compete. It's $3,000 to register a team. And then all teams come together on the event day to compete in 8 separate obstacles. Essentially, one team will win the Corporate Cup. Fundraising, this is very unique for this event. It's not required. So because they pay that $3,000 registration fee, that locks them in. However, we encourage teams to fundraise, and then we incentivize them to fundraise. So top teams will award, this year we had Delta ticket vouchers. We'll also do T-shirt contests to try to promote them, getting excited for the event ahead of time, spreading the word amongst their colleagues. When companies register, they're given a fundraising page. So one individual will step up as their team captain, and that team captain serves as our point of contact for both event day logistics, but also sharing fundraising tools and tricks. So for example, we had a Corporate Cup kickoff captain's breakfast this year. So we held it at the hospital about 3 months ahead of the event. We found that was best because if we did it too early, people don't think it's important. And if we do it too close to the event, we might not be able to put those fundraising practices that we share in motion. So the event was a huge success. Again, this is its 3rd year, and this year it raised just over $850,000. One event took place at Harvard Stadium and had 80 teams. And the second event took place in Danvers, Massachusetts. We felt like we should take it on the road. Unfortunately, that wasn't as successful. We were only able to get 20 teams. It was still a hit. People enjoyed themselves. But next year, we're hoping to have 2 events at Harvard, since if you've been to Harvard Stadium, it's a much larger space, so they can fit more teams. And also, as you know, with any city, we're going to get more companies that are a stone's throw away from Harvard than, say, a venue that's located outside of the city. Danvers is about an hour outside of the city. So just to give you a sense of, we thought we could get businesses from the north part of the state, and instead we feel like we'll probably stick to one location next year. So the whole coming about of the event really just started, as we all do, what's the next big thing? How can we stay in front of the fundraising world by doing something new? So similar to all of you, we have a walk that takes place on a weekend, so it can be tricky for companies to come back into the city when they're not working a day in the office. We kind of saw, as we all seen, there's a lot of 5Ks and things like that. Fitness has become really popular, both within individuals, but also within companies, just promoting health and wellness. And we've also gotten a large amount of requests from companies wanting volunteer opportunities or employee engagement opportunities. So we said, can we marry the 2 of those things and create an event during the workday that could essentially bring together companies to compete, but also raise money for a really great cause that they're excited about. So really that's how it took shape. The first year that it started, I think there were about 43 teams. The next year there were 62 teams, and this year there are over 100 teams. So we're growing, but we're also, growing over time as we adjust and we see what resonates with people. One thing I should point out, we did incentivize people. So in addition to the obstacles, there is a post-event closing ceremonies where the winner of the cup is announced, and also there's a barbecue and beer provided by Sam Adams for free. We didn't have to pay for the beer, so that's always a good incentive for companies. You get face time with other companies as well as with individuals within your own company. One of the feedbacks we heard is someone from fiscal met somebody in sales at X event, and they would never really work or talk with that person. So companies are able to go back and say, not only did we raise money for a good cause, but we got to know other people within our office space that we otherwise wouldn't have had space time with. The other thing is really, it was targeting a new niche of donors. So, walks, we oftentimes have a lot of families, and, some of our galas, we do have corporate support, but a lot of times it's individual tickets. So this is a very turnkey way for a company to send us a check, and we basically provide the platform for them to, have a day out of the office. The company doesn't necessarily have to do anything. It's really just signing up those 8 to 20 people within the company that want to compete. The next thing is the sponsorship package structure. So we did the math and we said, what are the projected expenses of this event, which, is pretty high when you look at the rentals associated, the t-shirts, things like that. We did as much as we could to bargain lower prices and things like that. But we also considered, if we're going to have teams pay $3,000, that makes sense because it essentially costs about $1,000 for a team of 20 people to, have the barbecue food, to allocate the setup of tents and things like that needed for event day. So $3,000 made sense for us. We felt it was just expensive enough that we can generate a lot of revenue, but not too expensive so that a lot of smaller companies couldn't find it in their budget. And then other sponsorships, we found ways to look at needs that we had. So for example, we wanted a DJ booth. So we had a sponsor sponsor the DJ booth. We wanted a refueling station. So we had National Grid sponsor an area where people could go and get beverages and waters and snacks throughout the day. We wanted a registration area where people could check their bags. So I had reached out to Delta to do a Delta bag check-in. So we really worked with what we needed and wanted to see and found sponsors that aligned with those, and it worked really, really well. We also had so many sponsors interested that we started running out of things. So we started naming, the warm-up of the event. We started naming the opening and closing ceremonies of the event, a photo booth area, and then last but not least, we even named the t-shirt contest. We also had an extra sponsor come in and we used their gift as a match. So we told all participants, Bain has come in as a $10,000 sponsor. Every dollar that you raise within the next 2 weeks, the top, I think it was every team that raised $1,000 or more will get an additional $1,000 courtesy of Bain to their fundraising total. So that was a really cool incentive that allowed us to give Bain exposure, but also incentivize teams to get to that $1,000 in fundraising so that we could raise more money. Volunteer leadership, we really didn't work with a committee. We did share event details to our pre-existing hospital committee so that they could spread the word. And we did get a couple teams through that. So for our hospital trust board, we shared info and we got about 3 teams. So certainly I think that's helpful, especially in year 1, because there's not a lot of money to market the event, especially when you don't know what the event's capable of. So word of mouth is really important. We did create a little bit of a committee to help advocate for fundraising. So like I said, we had a kickoff breakfast where we had top team captains at companies share how they successfully fundraised the years prior. So, if they had a pizza party or a happy hour after work, how did they raise those funds? So we did have about 20 individuals come forth and they were willing to share their story. We also had a lot of help. We hired Conventures, which is an event company. So we don't claim to be experts on organizing a huge event with thousands of people as much as we'd love to be. So this event, they also help with the Boston Marathon. So they helped us with venue contracts. They helped us with what kind of obstacles could we do without making them too intimidating or too difficult or too time consuming if we're tied to a certain amount of time. And then really event day, it was all hands on deck. So I would say everybody in our entire office, about 100 people, went and helped volunteer. So we had team guides for each team, greeting the teams and walking them through the obstacles that they'd be competing with. We had people at registration signing people up. So it really was an investment within the whole office to say, we're going to volunteer from the hours of 12 noon until 6 p.m. To help with setup and execution of the event. And then last but not least, I would say kind of tips for year one, both for this event, but also for any event that you're considering, is really the basic SWOT analysis. So what are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats? I think the strengths are, what do you have to gain if this is a completely new demographic? And, you know, what else is in your area? Like, is anybody else doing this? Is it successful? If so, that often means that you'll also find success if it's a tried and true event or method. Weaknesses, what do you have to lose? What are the expenses? This event could get really expensive if we're not constantly looking at venue contracts or ways to save funds or ways to secure in-kind donations and services. So certainly looking at that. Threats, you know, if it's outside, if there a rain plan, we thank God had a rain plan for our event at Danvers, which was north of Boston, because it poured. It was a monsoon, and we were able to, at a moment's notice, move into the gym. But at Harvard, we were really, really blessed to have a beautiful day. So that's something we're looking into for next year. If you have all these sponsors and participants, it's really going to be unfortunate if you have a very rainy day forecast. So what are things that you need to think about if you're having an outdoor event? Another was a video to capture the event. So hopefully I did a decent job explaining it at the start of the call, but I'm happy to share a video with you at the end of this call that you can circulate. We had a videographer just take images from the event after its first year. So when I shared that with companies, they immediately said, this looks awesome, this looks fun, and it was set to music. It was just 2 minutes, really quickly, with event highlights. But I think that's really important. This isn't just a normal golf tournament or a walk. So I think people really needed to understand how it was different and why it was excitingly different. So I would say that was so helpful to us. And then another thing is looking at the resources and the staff that you need. So Alyssa and myself made hundreds of calls. We didn't spend any marketing dollars, so we really relied on word of mouth, and we still are relying on word of mouth. So just as you look at those expenses, you know, having conversations about how much and if there are any funds that you can allocate to help build up and advertise the event. It just takes some of the pressure off of staff members as well, knowing that there's other events and initiatives, just kind of projecting what it could look like in terms of the resources and the marketing dollars that might be able to help alleviate that. So I think that's kind of the overall the overview. And if there's, you know, anything I can say is every year we're looking to make it better. So we've gotten very positive feedback. People oftentimes say they want to come back, but, you know, some of the obstacles are better received than others. So we're every year trying to make it fresh and different, while also keeping those core elements that make it special each year.
That is excellent. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And what I can do is, Eve, David, Marcy, I'll share the video link, and then I can also share a one-pager on the event. So if there's any questions that come up from that, are there any other initial questions? I don't know, Eve, David, or Marcy, if you want me to open it up, but I'm happy to stay and listen to some of your thoughts or your questions.
Yeah, let's open it up for 2 or 3 minutes before we jump into group conversations.
Did you guys have a certain, this is Ted in Chicago, did you guys have a certain number of companies already signed on before you launched the first year? Therefore able to make more of a convincing business case to invest the resources required?
Great question. So we surveyed our top corporate supporters and said, if we do this, will you do this? So it was very much word of mouth trust. It wasn't, you know, we didn't lock them in. But to that point, we did incentivize people. If you sign up early, the first year, it was only $2,500. And we did say, if you sign up by this time, it's $2,000, just to see, can we lock those people in? But yes, that's a really good point. We surveyed because I'll give you an example. This year we expanded. We did the Harvard, we did Danvers, and we actually tried to do Worcester, and people weren't surveyed ahead of time, and we couldn't get any participants. So we ended up cutting that venue, thankfully, in time before we had to cut any, we didn't have to lose any expenses. But yeah, it's really, I think, really important to lock in those commitments, external commitments, before you start carrying through with the budget.
This is Eve in Seattle. Do companies, did they all pay for their employees to participate, or are they volunteering, or is it a mix?
Yep, great question. So every team, we require the $3,000 commitment. There were 2 teams that asked to fundraise that $3,000 because they didn't have the budget. We allowed them to do that, but that was because we felt like, okay, this is worth it. But we ended up having to undercut. We had to pay their expense since 100% of those fundraising dollars would have to support the hospital. So going into this year, now that we're completely sold out the event in Boston at 80 teams, we're not even allowing teams to do that, only because, say, even if you were to contact family members and friends to make a gift, technically part of that's going towards your registration. So going next year, it has to be a straight expense gift, but $2,000 of that gift is tax deductible. So what we were able to do is they were able to secure $1,000, fundraise the other $2,000.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thanks again. You're welcome to stay online and listen to our conversation, or you and Catherine are welcome to jump off if you need to.
Excellent. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your time, everybody. Best of luck.
Thanks, Alyssa. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a couple sample group conversation starters following the corporate cup. So feel free to chime in. Again, just your first name and city or hospital would be helpful so we can capture all of these in notes. So what are innovative opportunities for corporations to engage with us, with children's hospitals? Secondly, how do you create an event that the hospital doesn't have to drive? It sounds like Boston is still driving this. They have 2 full-time staff working on this, but does anybody have any ideas or conversation starters on how to potentially ask a third party to host something like this on behalf of your hospital? And the third conversation topic would be how can these opportunities be created by you and the representatives so that it's not so transactional and it's more relationship building? Or do we see that in the corporate cup be an example of that? Any other feedback about the corporate cup in general?
I think it's obviously one of the things that's most simple about it, but it works really effectively, is the fact that it's during a work day. I know my role actually with the foundation here in Chicago is on our community engagement team, so more of our events team, but we work really closely with our corporate colleagues, and I used to be actually in more of a corporate officer role. But anyways, we see the Heart Walk here in Chicago gets tons and tons and tons of companies to come out to it. And I think one of the main reasons why is because it is on a Friday during the day. People get to leave work. So it's smart it's almost another reason for people to go do it, is they get to get out of work. So and they do a great job with it.
This is Sharon in Atlanta. I was just going to add, we are so event heavy that any of our conversations with our companies, we are always looking to plug them into existing events. Although I love the idea of the corporate cup, but there are some other walks and events that we don't have to. Or we're already leading and organizing, and so we want to plug them into it to help beef up those events, but also give them that engagement opportunity that they're looking for as well, or events that someone else is planning that we don't have to be so hands-on. So we're actually not looking to create any additional events at this time because we have so many that we could easily plug some of our corporate partners into for a number of different experiences. But I love the idea.
This is Eve in Seattle again. I was wondering if anyone had any input to or reaction to if, let's say, this was an industry-based group led by an industry leader. So let's say it's construction. If one of your top construction companies would own it, would you see any risks or benefits to that approach or limitations?
This is Rana at Woodmark, and Drew chatted to everyone, and I want to make sure to bring it to everybody's attention. Drew at Riley said that in Indianapolis, there's a nonprofit that hosts an event called the Corporate Challenge, which sounds very similar. So it would be difficult for us to create an event that competes with this in our city, but he included a link with some information that you can glean if you want to start something like it in your city. So. So Sharon, this is Rana again, and you mentioned that you guys have quite a few events in Atlanta, and I'm just wondering if, what are the ways that corporations can engage in that beyond sort of straight up sponsorship? Are there some unusual ways or ways you think that are working well that corporations can do more than maybe host a table or sponsored event? What's working in Atlanta?
There are some of the more traditional run walk types, but one of them. So while there might be our superhero sprint, for example, which is obviously very family heavy, and people dress up as superheroes and participate, and there is a standard kind of sponsorship structure to that. But of course, on the corporate side, the companies are looking for that team building experience. So them actually putting their dollars towards paying for the registration, for their teams and their employees to sign up and participate. That's been really fun because we really encourage them to also, identify themselves wearing their matching shirts, or if they are sponsoring and they do have their own tent, having a strong presence that way among other companies and organizations always goes over really well. There are some different things too, where we'll have some individuals, but they're maybe associated with one of our corporate partners who they will, in a volunteer capacity, help sell tickets to events. So sort of be a corporate connection and a leader to get word out to buy tickets to some of our golf outings or some of our other sporting events in particular. So and then there's the traditional, the gala and the buying tables. But one thing that's happened this weekend, I don't know if you're familiar with Arnie's March, that is not run by Children's, and that is a walk to honor our cancer patients. There is very little fundraising tied to it, but it is you get to walk among our cancer patients and their families, and for our corporate community, that's what they're looking for. And so it's a little bit more of a stewardship. There's a small registration fee, but it's more of a stewardship opportunity for them to connect with our patients, where it's not coming into the hospital and doing a patient party, but it's a super short walk and kind of ceremonial piece. So so that's that's become a new way that we are trying to engage our corporate partners, less on the event ticket and sponsorship, but filling a need for them that's beyond the patient craft party in the hospital.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Sharon.
I will add to one other idea. This is off the corporate cup. I don't know if you wanted to stay focused on that. We, separate from our marketing and advertising budget for the hospital, on a fundraising side, we invest a little bit with one of our radio partners, and we use that for promotion of some of our corporate cause marketing campaigns. And for companies, it's been a way to entice them to partner with us and or grow what their initial idea was. So we might have started with there's 10 or 15 locations and we're willing to do this type of a program for you all. But if I am willing to throw in a little bit of advertising to promote them and their campaign through one of our radio partners, how might that look bigger and differently and a larger commitment? So that's helped us a little bit kind of get things started with some companies that we know have big potential, and kind of dangle that carrot at least for a first year. It's never a commitment of something we promise to do every year. We sort of use it as a rotation to get new companies on board.
To kind of address this is Drew in Indianapolis with Riley. The other questions that are on the screen, I wasn't able to attach like a PDF, but we have a law firm that partnered with the Indiana Restaurant Association. So if your cities do like Restaurant Week, we were actually, for the last 2 times, we've been the beneficiary of the Restaurant Week. So our restaurant association signs up all these participating restaurants. There's a fee which they actually donate back to us, and then each of the restaurants can do their own fundraising mechanism where it's adding it onto their bill or just a straight donation. But it's been pretty successful. The first time we did it in February, we got about $35,000. We just wrapped up the Summerfest Restaurant Week. Kind of waiting for the donations to come in from that. We're going to do it a couple more times in 2019 as well. But a law firm was able to sponsor that with the Restaurant Association in our city, and we were just the beneficiary. So we just kind of pushed it out. Didn't really have to do a whole lot of activation. It's really driven by the Restaurant Association and the sponsor. But that's been a really unique and innovative opportunity to kind of get they're restaurants, but they're also corporations to kind of get involved with us as well.
That's great. Thanks, Drew. This is Rana. I have a question about that. Did you have an existing relationship with the law firm?
We do. One of the members of the law firm is on our board of governors for the foundation. So he has been trying to look for ways to fundraise without his firm directly giving us a donation. But he found this great opportunity to partner with the Indiana Restaurant Association and just make the board that he sits on is the beneficiary. So
yeah, that's exciting, and hopefully he's doing that in addition to his corporate gift, leveraging all of his resources. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, are others doing something similar to what Sharon shared about using cause marketing to entice corporate donors?
This is Eve in Seattle. We're toying with the idea of dropping one of our telethons that probably generates about 250 annual donors, and using that money that we spend on TV to create PSAs for our corporate partners instead for cause marketing. But we haven't figured out a way to measure that. Let's say it's $60,000 to put on a telethon when we gain 250 callers from that, does that outweigh what the corporations are going to raise? Are we going to get that 60,000 back? And the fact that we're losing 250 individual donors. So we're toying with that. We're pulling some data right now and seeing if it's worth it, or if it's just a trend that we have to do because telethons are dying.
That's interesting, Eve. It'll be interesting to hear where you guys land on that and what metrics you are able to use to figure out what the best next step is.
All right. Anything else on the conversation? Otherwise, I'll punt it back to David for reminders. All right, David, you're up.
I'll take that as a cue to move on here. So next, for everyone's radars, we have 2 calls scheduled. The next one is scheduled for Tuesday, December 11th. And the spring call has been scheduled for Tuesday, March 12th. I believe both dates have been shared. But just a simple reminder for those next calls.
Yes. And we will share in advance what the topic is. So if you have any ideas, please forward them to either Rana, Marcy, David, or myself, Eve, and we will vet them and try to either find a guest speaker or some sort of expert in that area and market it ahead of time. And you can also share it with your colleagues in your office who might find the topic interesting so we can get more participation.
And this is Rana one last time. I just want to share one quick announcement. The new WE platform is going live in about a week and a half, and we would strongly encourage you to jump on once you get that notification. This is going to feel like we've moved into the 21st century in our technology for our collaboration space, so we're excited. It's a place where you can find some answers and connect with people really easily. It's got a great user interface, and we're excited to get you in there. And thanks to those of you who have served as beta testers and early adopters. Hopefully you'll all find it a tool that really helps you in your work. So keep an eye out for an email about that very soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, without further ado, I guess we're adjourned.
All right. Thanks, Eve and David. Thanks, Rana.
Thanks everybody. Have a great day.
All right.